He spent years without sleep. He destroys dragons with one hit. But at school, he is just a slave. A level 30 bully threatens him, not knowing he stands before a monster who just broke the game's limit and unlocked a terrifying new power. Dragons roared fiercely within the final layer of the dragon dungeon as Daimomo Rei, panting heavily, stood amidst the chaotic battle. He looked at the screaming, shadowy beasts, remarking that they were dragons and telling them not to scream so much, while another voice urged them to shut up. A man wearing a black beanie with the words "black hole" on it declared that it should be time. He commented on the shrieking, saying the lizards were going to burst his eardrums, as he observed that there were 5 blood-stained dragons present. A massive swirling vortex of dark energy erupted, engulfing the dragons in a violent explosion. As the beasts were torn apart, a system notification appeared, announcing a level up for Daimomo Rei, age 17. 9. Daimomo Rei threw his arms up in triumph, shouting that he had finally reached the level cap. He recalled the years he had spent sacrificing sleep to level up, gathering materials, and finding efficient hunting grounds, finally hitting the maximum level. He mused that this had been the hardest game he had ever played, and now wondered what kind of reward he would receive from the dungeon management. Standing in the snowy aftermath amidst the dragon corpses, he examined the item drops, pleased with the good haul, and excitedly spotting a blood-stained dragon's magic eye among the loot.
A system window confirmed he had received numerous valuable materials from the dragons. He then reflected on the world's history, how 50 years ago, dungeons appeared, causing initial panic before people grew accustomed to them. Inside, magic and skills were possible, and the country supported explorers for the rare resources found within. For others, exploration was life-threatening, but for him, a self-proclaimed game addict, it was the best.
The notification explained that he had unlocked access to extra skills from now on. Defeating monsters wouldn't raise his level, but accumulating experience points would allow him to learn new abilities. It confirmed he had obtained the extra skill of teleportation, which was now available for use. He found this interesting and thought he would like to try it right away, but felt exhausted from going non-stop since 6 a.m. and decided to go to bed first instead.
The next day at school, a bully named Onizuka confronted him, demanding 10,000 yen and complaining that he needed lots of cash because he was being bullied.
Looking weary, Daimomo Rei thought about how he didn't feel like going to school the next day. Onizuka grew angry, yelling and threatening to kill Daimomo Rei if he didn't hurry up and hand over the money.
Daimomo Rei internally considered that while he should resist, it wouldn't be a problem to settle it with money since he had saved up hundreds of millions, though he felt it was a hassle and would rather focus on dungeon exploration. Reluctantly, he handed over the cash. Onizuka snatched the money, declaring it a big help and calling Daimomo Rei an obedient slave, warning him he was lucky he didn't lose his teeth.
He continued to taunt Daimomo Rei, saying that if they were in a dungeon, he would have a hole in his gut by now. Other students watched, calling Daimomo Rei pitiful and pathetic, assuming he was using his parents' money.
As Daimomo Rei stoically thought that this was still better than being attacked by monsters, another student approached Onizuka excitedly, recognizing him from a dungeon stream with Corias the previous day.
The student explained that Corias was a famous influencer and that dungeon streams were incredibly popular on video sites. Onizuka boasted that you can't ignore a celebrity, calling himself the Fist King and claiming his skills were on another level. He confirmed he had reached level 30 and laughed that yesterday's stream had already earned 50,000 yen, all thanks to him. Daimomo Rei, overhearing, mused that the income must depend on view count, and while it might be more profitable than hunting S-rank monsters, a monster hunting spree was probably still better. He also heard other students whispering about a famous streamer named Yuria being nearby, and that there was a math test that day. With the school day ending, Daimomo Rei decided he would test his new skill. Later, inside the lowest level vacuum dungeon, a system window displayed his vast array of elemental magic skills and his newly available extra skill, teleportation. He acknowledged that he didn't fully understand how it worked yet, but figured he could get the gist from the name and decided to test it out. Suddenly, his perception skill activated, and he sensed a strong but distant presence, followed by the sound of a scream. Realizing the situation was bad, he also sensed one person nearby along with 3 evil presences. Deciding the timing was just right, he activated the skill, initiating his teleportation as dark energy swirled around him. A young woman with long white hair found herself surrounded by 3 menacing, growling ogres, realizing she was in a bad situation. She recalled how the stream was supposed to be an easy ogre hunt, with viewers cheering her on for being a newly minted rank explorer. Now she wondered how it came to this, as she saw 3 death devil ogres instead of 1, all surrounded by a pitch-black aura. As she despaired, Ray suddenly teleported in front of her, materializing out of dark energy. The ogre charged forward as she cried out a warning. Ray swiftly kicked the ogre, sending it flying and killing it instantly as the streamer's chat erupted in disbelief. He caught the stunned woman, asking if she was okay. She confirmed she was, blushing slightly as another ogre lunged at them. Ray activated his skill again, teleporting away with the woman just as the ogre's massive fist slammed into the ground where they had been standing. He reappeared a short distance away, and with a puff of exertion, leaped towards the remaining ogres. He effortlessly dodged their attacks and dispatched them with powerful strikes, leaving the beasts exploding in his wake. As the chat flooded with praise and donations for saving their beloved Yulia, he mused that the fight was nothing compared to the blood dragons from yesterday. He recognized the famous streamer and considered heading home to avoid any troublesome situations. Yulia, however, called out for him to wait, looking at him with a mix of awe and curiosity. She thought about how this mysterious person, who could easily defeat an opponent she couldn't, was a world-class fighter. As she looked at him, her vision was filled with a system notification displaying his level as 9999. She gasped in shock, realizing his level was maxed out. As he was about to leave Yulia, she called out for him to wait, pleading for his name before he left. He internally debated, realizing that a famous person knowing his name would likely bring him trouble, so he decided to just give his initials, before awkwardly saying goodbye. The next day at school, Onizuka and his friends cornered Ray, calling him creepy and claiming to have heard rumors that he saved Yulia, which Onizuka immediately dismissed as a lie. Onizuka scoffed at the idea of him instant-killing a death devil ogre and yelled at him not to stand out. Ray calmly thought that it was just pathetic jealousy, though he acknowledged that Onizuka was still petty. He tried to deny it, but Onizuka insisted there was no way a loser like him could have done it. Ray thought it was convenient for the rumor to be denied, as he preferred to avoid the spotlight, even if it meant enduring some violence. Suddenly, a voice demanded to know what was happening, and Yulia appeared, flanked by 2 men in black suits. She angrily asked what they were doing to her precious Ray-kun, but Onizuka, unfazed, asked what she meant by that. Ray was surprised to see her and noticed her demeanor was completely different from when she was streaming. She now seemed terrifying. Yulia told Ray not to worry and that she would be fine, which he found strangely kind. He realized that if this continued, he might get beaten up on purpose, ruining his reputation. Yulia declared that comparing a coward like Onizuka, who ganged up on people, to her Ray-kun was an insult. She praised Ray's cool, aloof, and sexy demeanor as he effortlessly defeated his enemies. Onizuka, enraged, argued that he was more attractive than the shitty loner and boasted about his high level and fame, even suggesting a collaboration. Yulia coldly rejected him, stating she wasn't interested in a low life, and warned that levels didn't apply outside the dungeon. Onizuka, furious, lunged at Ray, yelling at him not to get in his way. Ray effortlessly caught Onizuka's punch, calmly stating that was enough, and that he couldn't go easy on him. He then struck Onizuka with a powerful blow, sending him flying backward through the classroom window. With Onizuka's friend stepping forward, he declared that trash is still trash and warned Ray not to get cocky just because he beat Onizuka. Ray, looking unimpressed, swiftly punched the boy in the face, calling him dull and asking if running his mouth was all he could do. The other boys rushed forward in anger, calling him trash, but Ray effortlessly dispatched them with a series of punches and kicks. As his defeated classmates lay on the ground around him, one of them cursed and threatened that he would regret this, while Ray mused that this was how it turned out. Suddenly, another of the boys pulled a knife, prompted by his friend to use it, and threatened Ray, shouting that his older brother was in the Yakuza and he wouldn't get off easy. Unfazed, Ray simply asked, "So?" The boy was the one who took out the knife and questioned why he was so scared, suggesting he should start over from elementary school. As the boy lunged with the knife, Ray dodged, grabbed his arm, and kicked him to the ground. With the boy crying in pain, Ray coldly asked what was wrong, reminding him that he was the one who started it all and didn't stop when asked. The boy desperately called out to Yulia for help. She sighed, then revealed her phone, showing that the entire incident had been broadcast live to the world. The stream chat was filled with comments mocking Onizuka and his friends, noting their crimes and calling for the police, as the defeated boy looked on in horror. Daimomo Rei told him that he only went along with the bullying because it was too much trouble to resist, and that was all there was to it. Yulia looked at Daimomo Rei with concern as he explained that he preferred peace, so it was best for him to just go with it, adding that it was a hassle. Later, Yulia tended to his wounds, placing a bandage on his cheek. She asked if it hurt, remarking that he was hit so much, but he dismissed it as just a graze. He lamented that his plans were ruined after she arrived, as he had even given up his honor. Confused, she asked how he knew it was her, and she smiled, saying she would recognize her Rei-kun anywhere. He questioned why she streamed the fight, and she explained it was a self-defense measure to protect herself. Daimomo Rei mused that although she was an S-class explorer, she was still just an ordinary girl outside the dungeon. Yulia became flustered, denying she was ordinary and questioning why a famous person like her would want anything to do with a normal high school boy. She then explained she came to repay the favor, but he replied coldly, telling her not to worry about it. She asked to be called by her real name, Karin Miyamoto, as it was conspicuous to be called Yulia outside. She then declared she would call him Rai-kun in return, and he, wanting to avoid further involvement, asked her not to. Karin then offered him insider information she possessed, something he wouldn't know about the Orichalcum slime. She described it as an extremely rare creature, with excellent materials for top-class equipment, something even she only had a small amount of. Daimomo Rei was intrigued, as the creature was difficult to encounter, and he wouldn't normally give such information to others. Karin revealed that the slimes were now occurring in large numbers in the Nishizakura dungeon. After thanking her for the information, Daimomo Rei left, with Karin admiring his cool and distant attitude. That night, at the Nishizakura dungeon, he contemplated that his level was already maxed out, and now with the strongest equipment, he would be unstoppable. Clad in dark gear, he prepared to enter the dungeon. Rai and Karin arrive at the bustling entrance to the Nishizakura dungeon, a massive structure built into a cliffside. Karin observes that it seems some people got the information out faster than she had thought, while Rai notes that he ended up coming with her after all. Ray explains that the bottom floor is on the 50th level, where an Orichalcum slime is supposed to be, but it would take forever to get there by normal means. Karin suggests they run as fast as possible to take out one or two, but Ray dismisses this as unnecessary and tells her to grab his hand. A flustered and blushing Karin takes his offered hand. Ray announces they are going and activates his teleport skill, enveloping them both in a swirl of dark energy. They reappear instantly on the bottom floor, leaving Karin stunned and asking what just happened. Ray calmly explains he recently acquired a skill called teleport. Before them lies a vast cavern teeming with countless Orichalcum slimes, causing Karin to gasp at their numbers. Ray calculates that even with the fast-moving slimes, they could probably take out 10. When Karin questions this, he corrects himself, stating he meant 100. Ray then leaps into the horde, dark energy forming into blades on his limbs as he begins to cut through the slimes. He slices through multiple creatures in a blur of motion, shattering their crystalline bodies. Surrounded, Ray declares he will take them on and activates his fire magic. A large magic circle labeled Fluorescence Zone materializes on the ground, erupting in a massive fiery explosion that incinerates the nearby slimes. Karin watches in awe, thinking that Orichalcum slimes aren't supposed to be weak to fire magic and calling Ray's power incredible. Ray turns to her, asking why she isn't fighting. He explains that while the slimes normally have such high defense that dealing even 1 point of damage is difficult, it doesn't matter to him since his stats are maxed out. Karin acknowledges this and says they should move to the next place. She looks at him with admiration, thinking he is the strongest and coolest person she has ever met and resolving to become stronger to be worthy of him. Amidst the battle, one slime escapes. Ray points it out, and Karin tells him to leave it to her. She activates her water magic, casting Absolute Arrow, which manifests as a giant ornate arrow of ice that flies towards the enemy. The arrow shatters the slime, and Ray compliments her on the nice follow-up. Karin thinks to herself that it's not bad, while Ray coolly agrees. The two stand back to back, victorious amidst the defeated monsters. They share a confident glance after their successful teamwork. Karin cries out in shock, announcing she's already level 150. She comments on being tired after fighting so many enemies, but believes they've defeated them all. She then tearfully insists her level up is entirely thanks to Ray, expressing how glad she is to have met him. Ray dismisses her gratitude, stating they were only able to hunt so many because of her information. Karin argues that it's still amazing, noting that even S-rank explorers are lucky to reach level 120. Ray looks at her impassively and tells her she is being so dramatic. A system notification appears before Ray, informing him that he has acquired a new extra skill, Magic Attack Reflection. He wonders if the skill reflects magical attacks back at the opponent and resolves to test it in the next battle, pleased to have gained a second extra skill. He feels the hard work of defeating hundreds of orichalcum slimes was worth it. Ray exclaims that he found it, though he remains most curious about another item. A list of materials appears, including 213 hard membranes, 131 exoskeletons, 183 magic pouches, and 17 treasure orbs from the slimes. He considers 17 of the extremely rare treasure orbs to be quite a haul. He reviews the crafting requirements for the Sword of the Apocalypse. The list shows that the Orichalcum Slimeture Orb requirement is now complete, with 107 out of 100 collected. Only one final unknown material is needed. He finds the weapon's name intriguing and wonders what it all means, noting he is just one material away from completion. An image of the powerful dark energy-wreathed sword flashes in his mind as he thinks that such rare materials must create a rare weapon. He vows to complete it and get his hands on it. Later, Karen screams upon seeing their reward, asking if it's okay to receive so much money, 60 million yen. Ray simply asks what's wrong. He tells her to just take it, as he had told her before. Karen protests that Ray did most of the fighting and she couldn't have defeated so many slimes without him, so she can't accept it. Ray firmly tells her that it is her reward. Meanwhile, another party of explorers reaches the bottom floor and is shocked to find piles of dead orichalcum slimes. They wonder how this is possible, since they were supposed to be the first to arrive. One of their members remarks that it usually takes S-rank explorers 20 minutes to defeat a single orichalcum slime and questions who could have accomplished such a feat. Karen notices the other explorers, and Ray immediately grabs her hand, telling her to go as he activates his teleport skill. A flash of light appears in the empty chamber where they once stood. The new arrivals are left confused, with one asking what was wrong and the other saying it was nothing, musing that he might have been imagining things. The next morning, a citizen in a city looks up in shock at a massive, newly appeared structure, wondering what the heck it is. Ray and Karen stand before the massive cliffside entrance to the Nishisakura dungeon, observing the crowd already gathered there. Karen remarks with a sigh that, as expected, people with quick information had arrived before them, while Ray thinks to himself that he wound up coming with her in the end. Ray explains that the lowest floor, where the orichalcum slimes are, is the 50th floor and it would take a long time to get there normally. Karen suggests they run for it using the shortest route to try and get one or two, but Ray dismisses this as unnecessary and simply tells her to grab his hand. A blushing and flustered Karen takes his hand as he says, "Here we go," and activates his teleport skill, enveloping them both in a swirl of dark energy. They instantly materialize on the dungeon's lowest floor, leaving Karen stunned and asking what just happened. Ray calmly informs her that he recently acquired the skill Teleport. They are confronted with the sight of a vast cavern teeming with countless orichalcum slimes, causing Karen to gasp at their sheer number. Ray calculates that at their current rate, even with the slimes' speed, they could probably defeat 10 of them, before correcting himself and stating he meant 1,000. He immediately leaps into the horde, dark energy, manifesting as sharp blades on his limbs. He moves in a blur, slicing through multiple crystalline slimes in a single, fluid attack that shatters their bodies. Finding himself surrounded, Ray challenges them to take his attack and activates his fire attribute magic. A massive, intricate magic circle, labeled Prominence Zone, appears on the floor beneath him, erupting in a colossal fiery explosion that incinerates the swarming slimes. Karen watches the devastation in awe, thinking to herself that magic attacks aren't supposed to work on orichalcum slimes, and that Ray is too amazing. Rai turns to her and asks why she isn't fighting. He clarifies that while the slime's defense is normally so high that magic can't even deal 1 point of damage, it doesn't matter to him because his stats are maxed out. Karen agrees, and Ray states they are heading to the next spot. She looks at him with admiration, thinking that he is stronger and cooler than anyone she has ever met and resolving to become a girl worthy of him. Amidst the ongoing battle, Ray spots a single slime that has fled from the main group. He points it out, and Karen confidently tells him to leave it to her. She activates her water attribute magic, unleashing a spell called Absolute Zero. A giant ornate arrow made of pure ice materializes and shoots forward, obliterating the escaping slime. Ray smirks, complimenting her on the nice follow-up and admitting it was not bad. Karen winks, thinking about her 10 million subscribers. The two stand back-to-back victoriously, sharing a look of confidence after their successful teamwork. Karen suddenly exclaims in shock that she is already level 150. She feels exhausted from the battle, but believes they are all done. She tearfully insists that her achievement is all thanks to Ray and that she's glad she met him. He dismisses her praise, stating they were only able to hunt so many slimes because of her information. Karen argues that it's still amazing, as even S-rank explorers usually only reach around level 120. Ray gives her an impassive look and tells her she is exaggerating. A system notification then appears before Ray, informing him that he has acquired a new extra skill, Magic Attack Reflection. He exclaims in pleasant surprise, wondering if the skill reflects magic attacks back at the enemy and deciding he will test it in the next battle. He thinks to himself that defeating hundreds of slimes was worth it, as this is already his second extra skill. Ray announces that he found it, but adds that the thing he is most curious about is that a list of drop materials appears, including 213 membranes, 131 carapaces, 183 magic pouches, and 17 supreme jewels. He considers 17 of the supreme jewels, a material with an extremely low drop rate, to be quite a haul. He then checks the crafting requirements for the magic sword of the world's end and sees that the Orichalcum Slime's supreme jewel component is now complete, with 107 out of 100 collected. He reflects that this weapon can only be crafted with extremely rare materials, but he still doesn't know what the crucial final material is. The name World's End also bothers him, and he wonders what it all means with only one material left to find. An image of a powerful sword wreathed in dark flames flashes in his mind, and he concludes that with such rare materials, it must be a rare weapon. He vows that he will absolutely complete it and make it his own. Later, Karen screams in shock after seeing their reward, asking if it is really okay for her to accept 60 million yen. Ray winks and says it's fine, as he already told her. Karen protests that she cannot accept it because he was the one who defeated most of the slimes, something she couldn't have done without him. Ray looks at her flushed face and firmly reiterates that it is her reward. At that moment, another party of explorers reaches the lowest floor and is stunned to find piles of defeated Orichalcum slimes, finding it strange since they were sure they were the first to arrive. One of them remarks that it takes an S-rank explorer 20 minutes to defeat just one slime, and they wonder who in the world could have performed such a feat. Karen notices the new arrivals, and Ray immediately tells her to grab on, announcing that they are leaving. He activates his teleport skill, vanishing from the cavern in a flash of light. The other explorers are left bewildered, with one asking what was wrong and his companion replying that it was nothing, guessing he was just imagining things. The next morning, a citizen in the city looks up in shock and cries out, "No way," wondering what the hell the massive new structure that has suddenly appeared in the sky is. The cover shows Ray's face split, one side calm with a green eye, the other wreathed in crackling blue and black energy against a digital background displaying the title, Auric Level Cansto, only I am max level. Ray stares at his phone in his room with a look of anguish, reacting to an Asahi News report questioning who could have accomplished a mass culling of Orichalcum slimes, a feat said to be impossible even for the strongest party, and speculating about the appearance of someone who will rewrite dungeon history. He collapses onto his bed, phone still in hand, muttering that he really screwed up and that this is getting more and more out of hand. At 6:12, his phone buzzes with a new message notification from Onizuka, asking if he is Daimomo's Ray. Ray reads the full message, in which Onizuka demands he come to the Sky Dungeon with Yulia-chan at 10 p.m. and threatens to definitely kill him this time. Ray looks at his phone with a serious expression, recognizing the sender's name. He ponders the situation, thinking that Onizuka and his lackeys haven't been to school since the assault incident. He finds it strange that there has been no news, as he thought the police would have made a move by now, especially since Karen had broadcast the moment Onizuka attacked him with a knife. Remembering Onizuka's threat about his big brother being in the Yakuza, Ray wonders if they are actually involved. His phone rings, the screen showing an incoming call from Miyamoto Karen. He answers, and Karen immediately asks if he got a message from Onizuka. Ray confirms that he did and asks if she did too. From her bedroom, Karen confirms she received a message about him dueling Daimomo at 10 p.m. in the Sky Dungeon and declares she will come and broadcast it to the whole country. Ray, with a calm expression, tells her she doesn't need to come and should stay somewhere safe tomorrow, which leaves Karen confused. Karen protests, arguing that the danger applies to him as well, reminding him that while he beat Onizuka's crew outside the dungeon, they are now talking about the Yakuza, and he is just a normal high school girl in that context. Ray cuts her off, telling her to leave it to him and not get involved, stating he'll handle it on his own, and says goodbye. As he ends the call, Karen desperately confesses that she's in love with him and is terrified something will happen to him. She continues, saying she knows he's blunt, but also more considerate of others than anyone, otherwise he never would have risked becoming famous just to save her. She tearfully insists that this time she will protect him. She admits her combat power might be unreliable, but she can use her video channel to spread the word, recalling that if he hadn't saved her back then, she wouldn't be in this world anymore. She states firmly that even if he refuses, she will go by herself because she already knows the location. Hearing her determination, Ray closes his eyes and sighs, finally relenting with a simple fine. Karen is overjoyed, exclaiming that it's okay. Ray adds a condition. In exchange, she must not leave his side, especially outside the dungeon. After the call ends, Ray sits alone on his bed, thinking to himself what a strange woman she is. The scene shifts to the next day at 10 p.m. in the Sky Dungeon, a vast, rocky canyon under a full moon, where two figures face off against each other. Ray, clad in his dark, flowing gear, stands opposite Onizuka, who wears a confident smirk. Onizuka comments that he thought Ray would have run away and asks if his shoulder is already healed, mocking his stupidity for showing up. Ray calmly asks if he saw a back-alley doctor. Onizuka boasts that he has doctors around him that a normal civilian like Ray could never meet in a hospital. Ray ignores the taunt and calls out to Yulia, asking if the stream preparations are ready, to which she replies with a cheerful, "Yep." Yulia, Karen's in-game avatar, is shown surrounded by floating screens for her stream, confirming that everything is perfect as the live chat fills with comments from fans. Onizuka tells Yulia to watch closely, promising to show her something interesting and prove that he is way stronger than this piece of junk Ray. With a massive roar, Onizuka unleashes his power, shattering the ground around him. He yells that while he was healing, he was also training, and his level is now 50, telling Ray to tremble in fear. Ray silently analyzes this claim, thinking it's a lie as there's no way Onizuka could gain 20 levels so quickly without a perfect hunting ground. Ray deduces there is only one possibility, considering Onizuka couldn't have fought monsters with an injured right shoulder, and concludes that he must have used a lot of EXP juice. The stream's chat reacts to the level 50 reveal, with viewers debating how Onizuka achieved it and whether Ray can still win. Onizuka, now shrouded in a dark aura and holding a massive blade, taunts Ray, asking if he's scared. Onizuka gestures for Ray to attack, telling him to bring it on. Ray scoffs, stating that as usual, all Onizuka does is bark. He then calmly declares that this time, he will fight using only one finger. He continues, stating that if he breaks that rule, Onizuka can have the win. Onizuka reacts with disbelief, and then fury, screaming that it's fine by him and challenging Ray to try it if he thinks he can, as the stream comments explode with excitement over the one-finger handicap. The two opponents face each other from a distance across the rocky terrain, poised for their battle to begin. Ray stands calmly as dozens of stone pillars, resembling bombs, rain down from the ceiling of the Sky Dungeon. Onizuka laughs maniacally from a distance, screaming for both Ray and Karen to die, while the livestream chat floods with panicked comments wondering if the falling objects are bombs and wishing the pair safety. Karen looks on with concern, but Ray quickly grabs her, reassures her that he's fine, and says they need to escape outside. He pulls her along as they dash out of the crumbling dungeon entrance. Now outside the Sky Dungeon, Ray asks Karen if she is okay, and she stammers a confirmation. Their escape is cut short as they are met by a large group of intimidating men. One of them greets them, stating that they're late. The group of thugs, including a man with a scarred face wearing a cap, another with long blonde hair holding a knife, and a third with a cigarette and a katana, stare them down menacingly, with the man in the cap adding that they have been waiting for them. A man in a hoodie, with prominent scars on his face, addresses Ray by his full name, Daimomo Ray. Ray realizes the duel was just bait to lure him here, and the hooded man confirms it with a chuckle, calling him a sharp brat and stating that this is the real deathmatch. Ray deduces that they saw the video of him instantly killing the Death Devil Ogre and knew they had no chance of winning inside the dungeon, prompting them to set up this ambush outside. Another thug holding a baseball bat informs him that this is an order from his aniki, so there should be no hard feelings. At another location, a stern-looking man is told that Onizuka is safe. Back outside the dungeon, the hooded man tells Rei that while it's childish to go this far against a kid, their family's reputation is on the line, so he should just give up and die. The thugs surround Rei and Karen, laughing menacingly. Karen, frightened, tells Rei the situation is really bad and urges him to run and not worry about her. Rei ignores her plea, glaring at the thugs and calling them bastards, then asks if they are prepared to put their lives on the line. A bald thug laughs at him for trying to act cool in front of his girl, while another swings a baseball bat at him, saying he will send them both to the afterlife together. Rei effortlessly catches the bat with one hand just before it connects. The thug stares in shock as Rei, looking down, asks one more time if they are prepared to put their lives on the line. With an intense look, he shatters the bat with his grip and strikes the thug, sending him flying back with a scream of agony. Rei then grabs another thug by the neck, lifting him into the air, and asks if they really thought they could beat him just because they were outside, scoffing at the idea that mere Yakuza could defeat him and declaring that they're 100 years too early. He follows up by delivering a powerful punch to another thug's face, sending him reeling backward. The remaining thugs are stunned, questioning how this is possible since stats aren't supposed to apply outside the dungeon, and wondering if Rei possesses real-world combat skills. A flashback shows a younger Rei being told by his father, a scarred man in traditional Japanese clothing, that he will teach him the secrets of combat. Young Rei protests, saying he doesn't want to and just wants to get along with his friends. His father insists, telling him he has good instincts and will surpass him in no time. The memory continues with his father gently telling him that he knows he's a kind boy, but as the son of a Yakuza boss, living a normal life will be difficult. With tears in his eyes, the young Rei apologizes, saying he just wanted to live a peaceful life like everyone else. In the present, Karen asks Rei if he's alright. Rei silently reflects that all he ever wanted was to hang out with friends like a normal person. He then turns to the remaining thugs and makes a declaration, stating that he will fight while protecting Karen, and they won't be able to land a single scratch on him. With a cold and furious expression, Rei points at the thugs and warns them that they will regret angering him from the depths of hell. The aftermath of a battle is shown, with several defeated thugs lying on the ground as one cries out in pain. Rei stands firm, his expression cold and shadowed, vowing that his opponents will regret angering him from the depths of hell. The remaining thugs are stunned by his demeanor, with one realizing he is clearly not some ordinary civilian while the other shouts in anger at the brat's insolence. Ignoring their shock, the group charges forward, one yelling for them not to flinch as Rei is just one kid. A dark, shadowy energy erupts from Rei, cracking the stone floor beneath him as he prepares to meet their attack. He moves with incredible speed, striking one attacker across the face, and then grabbing another by the head, his shadowy power enveloping the man's face and causing him to scream in agony. A remaining thug stares in disbelief, wondering how Rei can be so strong even outside of a dungeon. The blonde girl behind Rei asks who he is, noting his lack of practical experience, but Rei turns the criticism back on her, questioning if she thinks other families won't take advantage of her at this rate. The thug angrily refutes Rei's perceived arrogance, calling him a rich brat with only book smarts and questioning what a kid could know about real experience. Rei calmly retorts that compared to monsters, they are at an infant's level. Enraged, the thug calls him a brat again, but Rei coolly states that it's the truth, calling them babies for losing to a supposed rich kid with only book smarts. The thug orders his men to attack both Rei and the girl, tired of his talking. Rei launches himself forward in a blur of motion and dark energy, swiftly dispatching multiple attackers who cry out in pain as they are struck down. He continues his assault, incapacitating another man with a shadowy strike, before forming a jagged blade of dark energy on his arm to deliver another powerful blow. The hooded man is sent flying, dark energy spraying from his chest. His subordinate cries out for his eniki and wonders why they are losing to a mere kid. Rei stands over the defeated hooded man, assuring him he avoided his vitals before demanding to know their involvement in hiding Onizuka and any collusion with politicians. The man grits his teeth and claims to know nothing, but Rei smashes his fist into the ground next to his head, shattering the stone. He coldly asks if the man's brain is as infantile as his body and demands an answer. The beaten man taunts Rei, warning him that when Aniki Jinba arrives, it will be all over. As Rei registers the name Jinba, he senses a new threat. A large man lunges from the side with a massive blade, forcing Ray to dodge at the last second. The attacker, a powerfully built man with an eye patch and sunglasses, crashes into the ground and compliments Ray on his moves. The man, Jinba, follows up with another swing, which Ray blocks with his dark energy-coated arm. Jinba looks at Ray, framed by the night sky, and acknowledges that he is somewhat capable. Ray looks closely at Jinba's face and comments on a wound, stating that it's no wonder he is strong. A flashback reveals a younger Jinba with a young Ray in a traditional Japanese home, showing a pre-existing relationship. In the present, Ray faces his former guardian, noting that Jinba has the same scary face as always. The blonde girl is shocked that Ray knows him, and Ray explains that Jinba is the one who raised him in his father's place. Jinba is stunned, stammering Ray's name and questioning why Ray-sama is there. Ray gestures to the defeated thugs, explaining that they picked a fight with him, and asks Jinba to handle the cleanup. Jinba turns to his subordinate in utter disbelief, grabbing him and yelling at him for picking a fight with Ray-sama. He furiously demands to know who the man thought he was fighting, roaring that they are idiots, before revealing that Ray is the son of the Kamishuyama Gumi's boss. A final image shows Ray with the ghostly figures of a Yakuza clan behind him, a caption identifying him as Daimomo Ray-sama and giving him the title, The Bloody Silencer. A group of men react with shocked horror, one screaming in disbelief as he recognizes the defeated man as the boss's son, known as the Bloody Silencer. Standing over the unconscious bodies, Ray looks down and concludes that Karen is now safe. He stands with a trembling Karen, reassuring her that he thinks they are safe, but that she should stay by his side just in case, acknowledging it is no wonder she is scared. A man in a suit with an eye patch, Jinba, approaches with his subordinates and asks what is going on, while another subordinate questions if they really bribed politicians just for someone named Onizuka. Jinba explains this was a crew under their umbrella and that the Kamishuyama Gumi was not directly involved, which Ray overhears, thinking that it is just as he figured. The subordinate presses further, asking why politicians would be involved in something that seems too big for just Onizuka, to which Jinba admits they are also surprised. Ray listens intently, asking what he means by that. Jinba leans in and confides that while he cannot say it too loudly, there is an ominous atmosphere hanging over their entire organization, and frankly, they do not know what is going to happen. Ray considers this, finding it strange that a massive organization like the Kamishuyama Gumi, one of Japan's largest forces, would make such a blunder. Behind him, Karen bows deeply, offering her deepest apologies to Ray-sama for her oversight and begging his forgiveness. Ray tells her it is fine and advises her to use this as a chance to stop backing Onizuka, admitting that just looking at the man's face pisses him off. Jinba asserts that backing Onizuka was never their true intention and, as a form of apology, offers some under-the-table items from the dungeon administration, having heard that Ray is focusing on dungeon exploration. Ray narrows his eyes, repeating the phrase, under-the-table items, skeptically. An image flashes through his mind of Onizuka with a bottle of EXP juice, making him realize the organization is in collusion with the government and that the juice is likely held by the dungeon administration. Ray dismisses the offer, stating he doesn't need them as they are just illegal items anyway, and says that more importantly, he has another matter to discuss. Jinba insists the items would be to his liking. Ray changes the subject and asks how his old man is doing. Jinba's face lights up with a broad smile as he reports that his father is doing extremely well. His subordinate elaborates that when the boss saw the video of Onizuka hitting Ray, he began shouting about his precious Ray and had to be calmed down. A small smile appears on Ray's face as he thinks that his father is the same as always. A flashback shows a monstrous version of his father, representing how he appears to his subordinates, while Ray remembers that his father has always spoiled him rotten, even when a young Ray apologized profusely for messing up. In another memory, his father comforts him, telling him not to worry about his grades, because he did his best, leading Ray to reflect that his father was a total sweetheart to him. Back in the present, Ray considers the ominous atmosphere Jinba mentioned, speculating that trouble is brewing within the organization, though he cannot imagine his father ordering his disposal. He then tells Jinba that in that case, he would like to request those under-the-table items at a later date, also mentioning that Onizuka stole 500,000 yen. Jinba promises to double the amount and make Onizuka's older brother take responsibility. Rai then adds that, more importantly, Karen's streaming equipment is likely broken and demands an identical set be delivered by tomorrow. Jinba understands, while Karen tries to protest that it is not necessary. As Ray and Karen turn to leave, Jinba tells them to leave the cleanup to his men, and Ray agrees, saying he is counting on them. While walking through a quiet forest, Ray notices that Karen is unusually silent, her head hung low in thought. He glances at her, thinking that he cannot blame her, considering the person she was chasing turned out to be involved with a dangerous organization. He reflects that such a revelation would normally make anyone pull away, triggering a flashback to his childhood, where his friends suddenly told him their mothers forbid them from playing with him, leaving him alone in the middle of a game. The memory continues with his friends running away as he calls out to them, remembering how those he was close with would suddenly change their attitudes toward him before he trips and falls. A younger Ray cries alone, wondering what is wrong with him as he recalls how everyone ran away from him. Other children are shown whispering that he is from a Yakuza family and warning each other not to go near him. Ray remembers how he subsequently stopped interacting with people, escaped into the world of games and dungeons, and became obsessed with the idea of having a normal, average life. A symbolic image of his reflection, shattering, illustrates his feeling of a hollow existence, spent cursing his origins and avoiding others. Returning to the present, he turns to Karen and apologizes, stating that he thinks she understands now that he is not the great guy she believes him to be, and acknowledging the situation was scary for her. He continues that while they got through it safely this time, there is no guarantee she would not be dragged into something similar again. Turning his back on her, he tells her that she should cut ties with him too. As he walks away, he thinks that being with someone like him bring absolutely nothing good. He muses that he always knew, deep down, that a normal, average life was something he never should have wished for in the first place. Ray wakes up, stretching and yawning as he sits up in bed, thinking that the tiredness from the previous day still lingers. He picks up his phone and sees a news notification about a suspect, a 17-year-old, being taken into custody, alongside a message from Jinba. Jinba apologizes for the wait and informs him that the Onizuka matter has been handled, inviting him to take a look at the news. The feed shows multiple comments from users reacting to the news of Onizuka's arrest, with most agreeing that he got what he deserved. Rai texts back to Jinba, confirming he saw the news and saying it was good work. Jinba thanks him and adds that Yulia-san's streaming equipment is ready, asking how it should be delivered. Ray quietly considers that Jinba has successfully handled the groundwork. His thoughts drift to a recent memory of Karen in a dark forest, where he told her that being with someone like him would bring nothing good, and that she should cut ties with him. He recalls her firm refusal, her insistence that his statement was not true, and his own warning that she could get into trouble by staying with him. In the memory, Karen looks at him earnestly, asking if he's forgotten how much she loves him. She recounts the incident with Onizuka, explaining she'd sensed Ray was different from the beginning because he didn't flinch when the Yakuza were mentioned and remained perfectly calm, even with a knife pointed at him. She had told him she wasn't surprised at all and simply thought he was cool, which left him speechless. That's when she had suddenly hugged him tightly, telling him not to keep everything bottled up inside. While embracing him, Karen had said she knows he is a kind person at heart, and that's the Ray she fell in love with. She pleaded to stay by his side, not caring if others thought her reckless or an idiot. As he remembers this, Ray thinks about how truly strange she is. In the flashback, Karen pulls back with a determined, blushing face, declaring that he is the person everyone else avoids, but she constantly tries to get close to him, and that even if he refused, she would run the dungeon herself since she already knew the location. Staring at his phone in the present, Ray reflects that perhaps this connection is what he has desperately wanted since he was a lonely child. A small smile appears on his face as he thinks she is a strange woman, and he texts Jinba to send him to the school. Later, Ray walks through the crowded entrance of his school. Inside, another student sees him, quickly apologizes for being in the way, and steps aside. Other students also react with fear and deference, with one bowing and congratulating him on his good work as he passes. Ray realizes everyone is afraid of him, concluding they must have all seen the live stream. A girl with reddish-brown hair approaches, calling his name to thank him. She explains that she was also being bullied, but thanks to his actions, her bullies have stopped. Ray tells her not to worry about it, as he didn't do anything, speculating that the bullies are simply laying low due to the recent scandal involving Onizuka's assault case. He tells the girl that she is finally free from those pathetic people and should now live her life to the fullest. The girl thanks him profusely as he walks away, and she watches him go with a blush. Suddenly, a blonde woman in a stylish dress appears beside him. He is startled, asking who she is, but she simply says, "Oh my." The woman leans in and whispers that she is there on behalf of the boss, who wanted to make a display of power to silence the pathetic students at the school. Ray is furious, yelling in his mind about what a ridiculous thing that crazy old fool has done. Outside, students are shocked to see Ray with the woman next to a luxury car, wondering if she's his girlfriend and remarking on how he lives in a different world. Ray internally despairs over his lost normal life, wondering if this is the under-the-table item Jinba mentioned. The woman tells him to please get in the car. Inside the vehicle, Ray sighs in frustration about the old man's meddling. He is taken to a building's basement, where he confronts Jinba, who asks if he's angry. The older man grabs his collar and says he hopes Ray is prepared for what's coming, to which Ray confirms he is. Ray angrily grabs Jinba's collar in return, shouting that he told him he wanted a normal life and demanding to know why he completely destroyed it. Jinba formally apologizes for their actions. Ray calms down and tells Jinba to just spit out whatever he has to say about the under-the-table items. Jinba reveals that the top official of the dungeon administration, the administrative vice minister, wants to meet with Ray-sama. Jinba explains that he initially told the minister that Ray would likely refuse, but after the minister saw the video of Ray instantly killing the Death Devil Ogre, he insisted on a meeting and would not take no for an answer. Ray finds this situation to be beyond merely annoying. Jinba presses the matter, stating that it will be a valuable connection for Ray and imploring him to take the meeting. Ray, covering his face, realizes that for Jinba to push this hard, it must also be an important meeting for their organization. He sternly asks Jinba if he understands what he's doing by going this far. Jinba confirms he does, assuring Ray that the vice minister is a reasonable man and he can expect a generous return. Having agreed, Ray and Jinba walk down a hallway together. As Jinba opens a large door, a man in a suit standing just inside greets them, confirming Ray's identity as Daimomo Raikun. Ray briefly flashes back to the start of his day, leaving his house and lamenting how his peaceful life was shattered by being the center of attention on his first day back. He remembers the blonde woman greeting him expectantly as she opened the door of the luxury car for him, which had startled him at the time. Iijima Shinji, the vice minister of the Dungeon Management Bureau, stands in a doorway with his bodyguards, remarking that for a high school student, Omomo Ray has surprisingly intense eyes. As they walk down a hallway, Ray internally processes that he is meeting the head of the bureau. Iijima introduces himself and offers a handshake, telling Ray not to be so formal, while Ray thinks that meeting him must be a hassle. Iijima presents Ray with a piece of paper, explaining it is the item they discussed. Ray apologizes for not having a business card to offer in return, but Iijima laughs and clarifies that the paper contains a phone number to help Ray avoid police investigations. Ray is visibly confused, prompting Iijima to explain that while he is publicly an influencer, behind the scenes he is like the young master of the Kamisu clan, a position that attracts trouble. Iijima elaborates that if the police show up, Ray should call the number, and he will arrange to keep him out of any unnecessary investigations, noting that Japan is sensitive about such incidents. Ray understands that such a significant gift means Iijima has an important matter to discuss, and he feels a sense of caution, realizing that the special treatment is suspicious. Iijima acknowledges Ray's perceptiveness. Iijima then instructs a man named Jinba to bring him that, and Jinba complies. Jinba returns and presents a small, faceted black rock to Ray, calling it the secret item he had mentioned. Ray asks what it is, thinking it looks like a simple rock. Iijima asks Ray if he's aware that dungeon abilities don't work in the real world, which Jinba confirms, adding that stats and items are unusable outside dungeons. Ray thinks the item is therefore useless in the real world unless tested in a dungeon, but Iijima interrupts, stating that this item will theoretically change that very rule. Jinba drops the rock to the floor, where it begins to glow. The rock unleashes a massive wave of energy, shattering the room into digital fragments and transforming the space around them. Ray watches in shock as the energy washes over him, asking what is happening. The energy swirls and reforms the environment entirely. Ray finds himself standing in a new space, adjusting his tie as he takes in the bizarre scenery. The room has been replaced by a rocky, cavern-like landscape filled with giant, polka-dotted mushrooms and strange, flying creatures. Ray is stunned, questioning if this item is what he thinks it is, and Jinba confirms his suspicion is correct. A system interface appears before him as a notification announces he has leveled up. The status window displays his name, Omomo Ray, age 17, level 9999, with all stats maxed out at 99999. Ray stares in utter disbelief, thinking this has to be a joke. As the three of them stand in the newly created dungeon space, Ijima asks if he is satisfied. He explains that the secret item transforms the surroundings into a dungeon space, allowing Ray to use all his stats, rare items, and skills outside of a normal dungeon. Ray smiles and replies that he is, and Ijima says he is glad to hear it. A visual flashes showing Ray's stats and skills, including the newly available instant teleportation, clarifying that all the abilities he perfected, which were previously confined to dungeons, are now usable thanks to this item. A predatory grin spreads across Ray's face as he finds the development interesting. He clenches his fists, trembling with excitement at the thrilling realization that he will now be able to use his full power in the real world. Ray stands in a rocky, dungeon-like environment with two older men, thinking that with the under-the-table item, he can now use his powers in reality, a fact he finds very interesting. The man with the eye patch, Haba, explains he will now show Ray the other special items, at which point a glowing magical book materializes before them. The other man, Ijima, identifies the object as a Tame Tome Level 1, an item that allows the user to acquire a new skill upon use. Ijima elaborates that this particular tome will grant the ability to command monsters, a concept illustrated by an image of a chained, multi-headed, demonic creature. Ray is stunned, questioning what he just heard, and thinking about how he only recently gained the ability to use extra skills himself, as a system notification for instant teleportation flashes in his mind. He marvels at the idea of acquiring a skill like taming just by using an item, noting that while monster taming is a common trope in games, he's never heard of a dungeon explorer actually possessing such an ability. Haba announces that's not all, and a magnificent phoenix materializes from light. This item, a phoenix feather, is explained through a diagram showing a fallen figure being revived. Ijima clarifies that it allows a user to revive with full health once if they die inside a dungeon. Ray exclaims that it's a cheat item, but Haba calmly states that resurrection items are exceptionally rare and that he is certain it will be useful. Haba adds that they have prepared other powerful items as well, gesturing to a thought bubble containing the phoenix, potions, and a treasure chest, and tells Master Ray to choose whatever he likes. After a moment of contemplation, stroking his chin, Ray makes his decision, declaring he wants the Tame Tome. Ijima expresses his surprise, asking if Ray is sure and reminding him that the extent of the taming skill is unknown, but Ray confirms he doesn't mind. With a confident smirk, Ray explains that the appeal lies precisely in its unknown nature, which is a kind of romance for a gamer like himself. Ijima observes how Ray deliberately ignored the obviously powerful items to choose the unknown one. Haba remarks that, as expected, Ray is no ordinary high schooler. This prompts Haba to note that he has never asked about Ray's level, despite knowing he has always been strong, while Ijima directly asks Ray to reveal his level. Ray agrees, but warns Haba that he'll kill him if he tells anyone, before projecting his stats for them to see. Both Haba and Ijima react with utter disbelief, stammering that it's impossible and shouting in shock. The source of their astonishment is revealed to be Ray's level, which is 9999. Ray, annoyed by their loud reaction, tells them they're being noisy, while Ijima recovers and calls the sight magnificent, affirming that his eyes did not deceive him. Changing the subject, Ray asks Ijima-san if he has ever heard of a weapon called the Sword of the World's End. He explains that it appeared on his crafting list, but he can find no information about it, and though he is trying to craft it now, he cannot find the final material despite searching many dungeons. A visual shows the 4 materials he already possesses: the demon eye of the blood-dyed dragon, the reverse scale of the divine green dragon, the supreme jewel of the orichalcum slime, and the staff of the death mage. Ray states he has these 4 but is missing the final one, which is why he sought out the Dungeon Administration Bureau, hoping their private information network would have some answers. Ijima, however, admits it's the first time he's even heard the weapon's name. Ray looks disappointed that even Ijima doesn't know about it. Ijima then recalls an interesting report from a staff member explaining that items can be born inside dungeons from unconventional sources, such as a person's thoughts or determination, crystallizing into a jewel. Ray is surprised by this information, and Ijima suggests the missing material could be one of these special items. As Ray contemplates the idea of a special item, the door to the room opens. An aide enters to inform Vice Minister Ijima that his next appointment is approaching. Ijima, surprised at the time, turns to Raikun to make a request, explaining that the reason he was entrusted with the under-the-table item is related to it. Rei is left looking perplexed by the incomplete statement. Later that evening, Rei walks through a shopping district at night, reflecting that while he dislikes getting involved in troublesome things, he did gain valuable information about the special items and the story from Ajima. Unbeknownst to him, a blonde woman in a hoodie, cap, and glasses, named Karen, is stealthily following him. Rei suddenly stops, sensing her presence and looking over his shoulder. He walks past the startled Karen, calling her name and asking if she followed him all the way there. Karen feigns surprise, laughing and claiming it's a coincidence, as she was just out for her nightly walk. Unconvinced, Rei tells her the timing is perfect and hands her a bag containing new streaming equipment, apologizing for the hassle of recovering her account. Karen gratefully accepts the gift. She then bizarrely hugs the bag, singing softly about Raikun's bag and his scent, which Rei finds weird. As they walk together, Karen asks if he's in some kind of trouble again. She correctly guesses he was talking to Tohaba-san and that the Yakuza matter is still unresolved, telling him he doesn't need to hide it. Rei admits this is true but clarifies he is not a Yakuza member and has no intention of actively intervening, which gives Karen a brilliant idea. Her eyes sparkle as she proposes using her channel to cover the story, thinking that a streamer diving into the darkness of society would be cool. Rei shouts in protest as Karen enthusiastically declares the matter decided. He facepalms in exasperation, wondering if she listened to him at all, while she happily chants about her new streaming idea. A brief flashback shows Karen asking Rei to let her stay with him, professing her love for his little sister and her indifference to public opinion. In the present, Karen links her arm with his, and Rei reflects on how she remains unafraid of his background. He finds her to be a strange woman and feels an unfamiliar emotion sprouting in his heart. As she hums happily, Rei thinks to himself that he, at least, doesn't feel the urge to forcibly run away from the situation. She playfully refuses to let go of his arm as they continue down the street. The scene shifts to a large public screen in Kasumigaseki, Tokyo, displaying breaking news. A news report announces information regarding multiple suspicious individuals, showing images of people with unnervingly hollow eyes reaching out like zombies. Rei walks towards his school as his phone buzzes with an incoming call from someone named Ijima. Students and teachers greet each other as they head onto the school grounds. Looking at his phone, Rei wonders what Ijima could want at this hour, deciding he can't answer with so many people around. Suddenly, a loud siren blares from a nearby speaker, broadcasting an emergency announcement of a major terror attack. The voice warns that there is a possibility of a terrorist threat reaching this area and orders everyone to evacuate to a safe location immediately. As the announcement repeats its urgent command to evacuate, students look around in confusion. One boy identifies it as the civil protection siren, while a girl questions why an alarm for a national-level attack would be sounding here. A teacher shouts for everyone to get inside the school and take cover as the students begin to run in a panic. Rei, looking shocked, says it can't be happening and finally answers his phone while running alongside the crowd. He addresses the caller as Ijima-san, who sounds relieved that Rei picked up. On the phone, Ijima states that the situation is worse than he thought, and Rei agrees, saying he knows. Ijima declares he will be brief, explaining that they have been targeted by the Dungeon Investigation Agency. Ijima asks if Rei remembers their previous conversation about the Yakuza members, and a flashback shows Ijima explaining that it is highly likely the agency, a branch of the Dungeon Administration Bureau, is pulling the strings. In the present, Rei looks shocked to hear this confirmation. The flashback continues, clarifying that the Dungeon Investigation Agency is an organization that handles everything related to dungeons, from mapping their structures and compiling monster data to maintaining communications inside. Rei recalls Ijima confirming that the agency caused the incident without his knowledge, which explains why the state would cover for Onizuka. Ijima clarifies that Onizuka's group were merely low-level subordinates. An older man with an eye patch, listening in, concludes that this must mean the Dungeon Investigation Agency was the one who approached Onizuka's group in the first place. The man states the possibility is high, revealing that drug traces were recently detected in the Yakuza members Rei had defeated. A flashback shows Rei asking if it was some kind of stimulant. The men explain that while they don't know the exact nature of the drug, investigating its source led them directly to the Dungeon Investigation Agency, suggesting they are plotting something sinister and and using the Yakuza as test subjects. Iijima tells Rei that the situation has escalated. Iijima then tells Rei that he believes Rei is the key to solving the incident. Back in the present, Rei sits by a car, realizing the agency would come after him directly. He remembers Iijima mentioning that he had several staff members investigating the agency, but had been unable to reach any of them since yesterday. Rei reacts with shock to this news. Iijima theorizes that the agency is attacking them and breaking the law because they are hiding a secret about the dungeons that they have deliberately kept from the Bureau. Rei sits on the ground, contemplating the idea of a dungeon's secret. A girl's scream shatters the moment, and Rei looks up to see a female student being choked by a man in a police-style uniform. The girl struggles, crying for help, while Rei looks on, stunned, wondering why the police are attacking students. A close-up on the attacker reveals a monstrous, inhuman face with blank white eyes as he mutters about finding Daimomo. More men in similar uniforms, all with the same distorted, monstrous faces, surround the terrified girl, who screams, asking what these creatures are. Rei looks on at the scene, thinking to himself what the hell is happening as the girl surrounded by the monstrous police officers questions if they are even human. As the girl struggles, Rei grits his teeth in frustration and lunges forward, grabbing a metal bar from a fence. He dashes with incredible speed towards the attackers, a blur of motion as he closes the distance. One of the monster cops fires a revolver, but the bullets strike the wall behind Rei, missing him completely. Another attacker swings a baton down, but Rei dodges, causing the weapon to shatter the pavement as he furiously shouts for it to die. Rei lands a devastating punch, completely shattering the monster's face. As the creature falls, it drops its gun, which Rei deftly catches in mid-air. He aims the weapon at the monster, still holding the girl, demanding it let her go. Seizing the opportunity, the girl knees her captor in the stomach, breaking his hold and sending him stumbling back. She screams as Rei shouts for her to get to the school and take shelter, which she agrees to do. As she runs to safety, she thanks Daimomo. Now armed, Rei addresses the remaining monsters, saying now then, and warns them to be ready, declaring that the first one to make a wrong move will die. As the creatures growl, Rei steels himself, telling himself not to think for a second that they can beat him, but his thoughts are interrupted by the roar of approaching engines. A gang of bikers suddenly arrives, surrounding Rei and the monster cops. Rei recognizes them as Yakuza and wonders if they are members of the Kamishuyama-gumi or some other group. Facing threats from two sides, he addresses the Dungeon Investigation Agency, sarcastically remarking on the welcome party and questioning how badly they want to get rid of him. His eyes widen in shock as the Yakuza members begin to transform, their bodies swelling with muscle and distorting into monstrous forms. Their leader, his face twisted into a grotesque grin, mutters that he has found Daimomo Rei. The transformed Yakuza snarl, growling that they will kill him. Rei realizes he is now facing monster cops with handguns and a horde of transformed Yakuza, thinking to himself that this would be simple in a dungeon, but he questions if he can truly win against so many enemies in the real world. He stands surrounded, holding the revolver and wondering what to do, when a bicycle suddenly flies through the air and crashes into the attackers, catching them by surprise. A massive group of students on bicycles comes charging down the road, shouting as they ride into the fray to help Rei.